With this new rebate that's just come in, that $2.3 billion in federal funding, it's really shaken up the whole battery world.
We're going to have probably several million batteries, home batteries in Australia over the next 10 years. There's a very generous subsidy coming from the federal government that's going to really kick this along.
It used to cost you 10 grand, it's going to cost you around 6 for a 10 kilowatt battery. These subsidies
here for 5 years. We've done some rough calculations on that, 7,000 batteries a week.
The challenge is, how do people get the best out of their batteries? What battery to buy, what size, how do you configure it, how do you look after it?
Well, the first question I ask is, why? Why do you want a battery?
Once you start thinking about why you want a battery, then you can start thinking about size, what you want the battery to do, how you want it to work.
Understanding the why, it's like the basic life principles. Why leads to what, how, but we've got to start with the why.
So if you remember nothing else from the discussion today, 3 points for you. Be clear on what you would like to achieve out of your battery. Make sure when you get a battery, you think about the retail tariff, so which retailer you're on and what tariff plan you should be using. And if you see letterbox brochures or primetime TV ads, generally it's the people who are chasing the rebates, people flogging cheap batteries, you'll end up with a substandard performance. So when I say, what do you want to achieve? Do you want to achieve blackout protection? Do you want your house to still be working when you have a grid outage? Have you got solar, and do you want to be able to utilise that excess solar that you're not using during the day in the evening during peak periods? Do you actually want to stop paying for electricity all up? Do you want to largely be self-sufficient? Do you think a battery can support your full house or just critical circuits?
We must understand your energy profile, what you're consuming in gas and electricity, before we can even tell you what size battery system you need.
So when it comes to your household, how much, how big, how many kilowatt hours do you need? Well, it depends on what you're going to try and achieve. If you want to be largely off grid and not buy anything from the grid, then you'll need a bigger battery than if you're just wanting to ride out some grid disturbances, or if you want to avoid paying peak hour electricity tariffs, which are now at the order of 35, maybe 40 cents per kilowatt hour.
Do you plan on removing more gas from your property? Do you plan on going all electric? Because if you are, we're going to have a very different conversation around what size battery you need, because we've got to look at what you're doing now, but what's your load going to be like in the future?
So these are the sorts of things that you need to think about when you are sizing your battery.
And now with this new battery rebate coming in, it's really changed the way we look at it. A light use family, we were putting in 5 to 8 kilowatt battery, and the brands we were using back then were like the GoodWe and Sungrows. Good entry level battery into the market, it was cheap, and then we moved up into the average family size home, 10 to 15 kilowatts. There's new batteries always coming into the market. I've listed 3 up there because they're the 3 that we believe are good from a manufacturer support perspective, a pricing point, and just brand equity and recognition there. And then we talk high electrification households that are pretty much fully electric. We've got an EV car on the horizon. Basically any house that has full air conditioning, like a full refrigeration, if you've got ducted refrigeration or even a bunch of splits like you see on the wall up there, they actually chew through energy, especially at night when it's cold. If you don't have gas ducted heating, if you do, you're going to get rid of that. When you go heating and cooling with a HVAC system, it does chew through. So if you are a heavy user of that at night, then you want to get a pretty large battery to be able to support that.
And a lot of people go, well, I can't afford to do all that. If you look into it, and this is exactly what we do, were you aware that to electrify a home, Victorian households have anywhere between $15,000 to $20,000 in state and federal funding in rebates? They don't have to pay that. It's not a loan or anything. We can get that from a house if we look at everything properly. If you've got gas heating, right, you got up to $5,000 in government subsidies to encourage you to go to reverse up with splits or a ducted system. You've got the subsidies around your hot water to go to heat pump. Now, when you start stacking all this stuff up, you soon begin to realize that how affordable it all is when you put that solar system on the roof. And when you understand what that looks like, that's when we can size your battery. Usually I see three motivators into what gets people the removable battery. One's the environmental. The other one wants grid stability. They just love the fact that it is power age, so they can move anyone on the street and can still hunt along. Right, so it is important. And the other one's to reduce their power usage, right? They're relying on the grid, they're not buying coal-fired power, and they're using all their renewables, and they're using their energy at night to draw from the battery rather than buying from the grid. It's important to understand that motivator, because if they're buying a battery and they've still got gas, it's just like, well, are you buying it because you want grid stability? Are you buying it because you really love that you're buying it and you've got the money to afford that? Because what you're doing there, you're not going to get the best benefit from. Because especially with heating and hot water, they're the two biggest gas consumers in your home. Heating is number one. 60% of your gas bills are from that. 30% is from your hottie. The rest is like your gas cooker and whatnot. Now, if you've got a nice, big, decent battery, you've got a big solar system, you've charged that bad boy up, it's sitting there full, and you've got gas heater running all night, what benefit are you going to get from a monetary value from that? You're going to be paying all this money for the gas to be cooking. You're going to wake up in the morning with 80% battery still.
You also want to think about what functionality you want. So if you're a nerd like me, you want everything. You want all the bells and whistles. Some people want some basic blackout protection. Some people want full ability to export to the grid. Some people want to be able to do that down to 5-second resolution, which some will allow you to do. You probably want to be able to see what your battery's doing with a clever app, like you've been used to doing with your solar systems. But some of the other things you need to think about is it modular? Am I going to buy enough capacity now, or do I need to buy more capacity later once I get used to it? How does it work with your future EV charger is another thing that you need to think about. So are you buying your battery today with its EV connection capability in the future, or are they totally separate things?
So what features can help you then to get the best from a battery? Static scheduling, just insist on it. That's the ability to set when the battery can charge or discharge and when it can't charge and discharge. Make sure it can charge from grid as well as from rooftop solar. Now, optimisation is an interesting one. The Powerwall, for instance, has an onboard algorithm that optimises the battery charge and discharge according to its projection of your load and your solar generation and the tariff you're on, if it's been configured with the tariff, which you need to do. Charge from the cheapest source and discharge into the best value. Now, home energy management system, which is the kind of the step up from just having that optimization on a battery, that can actually integrate the EV charger, your hot water, the battery, the solar, the tariff to get the best result. And I think we're going to start to see a lot more home energy management systems.
Having a battery without thinking about your electricity retail tariff is largely not common sense.
What retail tariff? I suggest that you should be on a time of use tariff with a battery. There's not much point being on a single rate. Single rates are easier, but a lot of the benefit from a battery is discharging into a more expensive time, so any residual use is at a low off-peak rate. By all means, if you just don't want to have anything to do with time of use tariff, which some people don't, go single rate. But single rate, you won't be getting the same kind of financial benefit from it. And as I've mentioned a couple of times, solar saver tariffs, well worth having a look at.
Tariff selection is really important. So I've put up here 5 main different tariff types that are in the market at the moment. Flat rate, you pay the same amount regardless of what time of day. Typically in the market today, that's about 25 cents per kilowatt hour that you are paying. And hence it doesn't matter whether you're using power at 3 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you're always paying the same amount. There's also time of use tariff, standard off-peak, peak arrangements where it's more expensive between 3 p.m. and 9 p.m. when everyone wants to cook their dinner and heat their house, versus off-peak when there is a glut of electricity from solar in the network.
Now this is the chart of righteousness and virtue. So you can see that between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. the EV is charging, that's in the free period. And also the battery's charging. You can see that stated charge line on the battery going up over that period. Then you can see it again, it's discharging into that more expensive peak period later in the day.
The issue we've got here with these old porcelain fuse boards, the main switch actually doesn't protect the mains cables that enter your property. It has no thermal protection, and when they're not properly protected, that's when they can catch fire. It is important that we have enough space. There's regulations around clearances to the left, to the right, to above, to in front. What's probably the most common one is that we just need to make sure that we install them on an area where there's no habitable, if there's a habitable room behind that, so it's a place where you sleep, we need to ensure that there's a fireproof membrane in between, something like a cement sheet or a brick side there. So this being an internal wall, the room behind that, also it's not habitable because it has just been secured to plexiglass. This is installed in the garage. It is one of the most common places and preferred places. They'll last the longest inside. The sun won't get to them. They just protect you from the elements. This is what we do. We look at every item in the home. We look at that holistically and understand your journey, because it's not simply, I just want a battery because, Norma next door's got one. It's why. Why do you want it? So we can help you with your next success.